As we delve deeper into Marcy's world, the echoes of a painful night reverberate. If you thought things couldn't get more intense, brace yourselves. In this chapter, we uncover the aftermath, the choices she faces, and the darkness that lurks beneath the surface. Let's rewind and immerse ourselves in the gripping recap before plunging into the next riveting chapter of Marcy's journey.
Our makeout session lasted for a while. Groping and rubbing. We both had to change our clothes and underwear. He had to put the cum on his flesh. I had squirted into my panties, I'm happy to say. That hadn't happened in ages. We were both tired, but oh so happy. I lay on the couch, shirtless, listening to the shower upstairs and imagining Taylor's wet, soapy body. He asked me if he was a good boy. I wasn't turned off by this, but I am curious. I knew one guy named Robert who was kind of into that. Rob liked it when I called him daddy and enjoyed lightly placing his fingers around my throat when we fuck. That was way back in college, when most experimented with that kind of thing. Taylor seemed to me to be this classic country boy type who wouldn't be into that sort of play. I guess / assumed he'd be into what some call vanilla sex. I guess Taylor is more than meets the eye. This is something I'm going to keep tabs on. I hope it continues. Sex with Jeff is so boring. Never talk about dirty talk. Just thrust into my throat like it's something he has to do. Like it's part of his act of being a typical husband. Lying back down by my side, smelling amazing, he holds me close and rests his head on my shoulder like a pet. He's so gentle, so strong. Everything I could want in a guy. His veins are so prominent. He's truly someone out of a magazine. Of course, Jeff also looked handsome when I met him. A sort of John Hamm type. Looks aren't everything. I also know personality can change. Jeff's did. The more he got into drinking and not sleeping well. I guess he was always possessive, but I guess I thought possessive meant protective. I was so damn wrong. And now I am paying for it. I must have fallen asleep again because I woke up to the smell of bacon and eggs. I put on a new, but similar outfit to today, sensing he liked me in all black. I hugged Taylor softly from behind as he cooked. The food looked absolutely perfect. I rubbed his six-pack gently with one hand. "Hey, Marcy," smiled Taylor, still blushing at her touch. "I really don't want to go back home. Jeff's going to be wondering where I am." She kissed his cheek and made some coffee, which Taylor had forgotten to make. "Well, we can see each other whenever you want," nodded the man, handing her a plate of fresh food. "I want to see you every day," sighed Marcy, sitting at the table, her cleavage on full display. Taylor took notice. Both knew what they were doing. Taylor made himself a plate and sat next to her. "I'd love to have you here. If you'll have me, I'll text you. I promise. I'm not leaving you. You shouldn't be here alone." "Really? Do you feel the same way?" "Yeah. Loneliness is my downfall. My depression kicks in. My nerves. I haven't felt anything negative with you by my side," admitted Taylor with a sweet tone. "Did you go out today?" Jeff asked, taking a bite of turkey with gravy smothered on top. "Why do you ask?" Marcy retorted, stirring some mashed potatoes on her plate. "Saw the BMW parked a bit differently. You know, I don't really like it when you go out without me." Rolling his eyes, Jeff stared at his wife, then back at his plate. "When we first dated, I thought you'd be cool old school. Hold the door open for me, get me flowers. Not keep me cooped up like some fucking homemaker from the 50s. You go out with my pals, you bring in tons of money that I don't have access to all the time. Why do I need to lead a boring life? This manner makes me feel like a maid." No. A maid gets paid. I feel like a slave, Jeff. I'm your little petite woman who cooks, cleans, and reluctantly sucks your cock once in a while. You make me feel weak. You make me feel pathetic." Marcy frowned, her voice shook in both anger and terror. It rose a few octaves as she continued. She now stood at the table. "One more word, Marcy, and I will hurt you." Jeff finished his glass of hard liquor close by. Taking a deep breath, Marcy gripped her own glass and flung it, nearly hitting her husband's head, and watched it shatter against the hardwood floor. Quickly standing, Jeff flung himself at Marcy, hands wrapped around her throat, and knocked her to the floor with a grunt. "You disrespect me in my house?" yelled the raging man, his slicked back hair and beard getting messy, his tie dangled loose from his collared shirt. He sent a hard slap across her face. Taking deep breaths, Marcy lay still, looking up at Jeff, who straddled her. He slaps her again in the mouth. Her lip is cut and dripping warm blood. He then strangles her again, this time quite tight to the point of Marcy turning her head and coughing. "You're going to listen to me now, bitch?" His voice was so calm it was nearly deceiving. "You're going to learn your place while you feel my touch?" He stood up, letting his wife breathe. She coughed, rubbing her neck, and lying on the floor. Sweat drips from her forehead. A tear trickled down her eye. I'm sorry, Jeff. I'll listen. Truly. She stood, eyes wide, crying, looking up at him like he was some savior. Good. Very good. He hugged her, rubbing her back. Just let him hug you. Let him think you're weak. This will be over soon. Jeffrey Clemens. That name will make for a good obituary. I'll smile once I see rich business executive Jeffrey Ronald Clemens found dead as a headline. Maybe an ex-girlfriend of his will open as well? If he has indeed abused more. Or maybe I'm the only one he treats like this. Maybe I just set off that hatred for him? It won't matter, though. Soon, nothing will matter as far as Jeff and my life goes. She knew she was waking Taylor up. A mist hung in the air on this warm morning. Her walk was brisk as she exited her vehicle and toward the door of the home she loved so much. The home she loved more than her own. Knocking on the door rapidly, her body tensed with passing moments. What if he's not home? What if I need to get a hotel and this ordeal becomes bigger than it already was? Opening the door, Taylor was greeted by Marcy, hugging him tightly. A moment of shock went through him, but then he relaxed and hugged her back, realizing she needed comfort. Mind if I stay here today? Her voice shook slightly, her head resting upon Taylor's chest. Yeah, of course. Everything okay? Now that I'm with you, I'll be fine. I'll skip coffee at his house. My heart rate is up, and I feel dizzy, feeling danger all around me. I only hope my feelings of dread disappear. I hope Taylor has never felt such emotions. I hope that he hasn't gone through a lot of pain or sadness. He doesn't deserve it. I don't deserve it. Very few people deserve it. Running my hand on his leg, I sipped the hot tea he graciously poured for me. Truthfully, it wasn't the drink that brought my nerves down. It was knowing he was with me. Setting the cup down, Marcy straddled the man's lap, and he gasped gently at her touch. Reaching his hand to his crotch, he unbuckled his pants and removed the brown, thick belt which looked quite nice around his waist. Marcy leaned back, giving him room to remove his clothes. May I remove my clothes? Looking into her eyes, he spoke. You can just do what you want, Taylor. I trust you. With a smile, she sighed lovingly. She kissed his neck after she spoke. I'd like your permission. He whispered into her ear before her chin left his shoulder. Permission. Imagine asking me permission for everything? A verbal cue before every kiss, every cuddle, every fuck? Who am I dealing with here? It's sweet whatever it is.
Yes, you have my permission. Marcy giggled. Thank you, ma'am. Taylor spoke, kissing her sweet lips and moving his tongue around the interior of her cheeks. Once his kiss was over, he became erect quickly. Could you put this belt around my neck? Let me? He blushed, his muscles beginning to sweat. Like a leash? She questioned, gripping the brown belt he handed her. Yeah. Makes me feel good. He nodded. You said I could do anything I wanted, right? The man couldn't blush harder if he tried. All right. She wrapped the leather strap around his neck, letting it hang loose. Tighter, please. His eyes went wide, his heart pounding. Still on his lap, Marcy held the belt like a leash and tightened the strap. It fit snugly around his neck. His smile was genuine and warm. Her smile was a smirk that radiated confidence. All right. You'll be a good boy? Remove your shirt. She winked, knowing full well what he wanted. Yes, ma'am. He nodded and swallowed hard. It wasn't easy to remove the article of clothing while the belt was fastened to his neck, but he managed. She gazed at his flawless body, feeling the tight leather around his neck and looking into the eyes of his new lover. Moving from his lap, Marcy stood slowly, looking down at the buff man before her, clutching the belt like she was leading a giant dog around the house. He didn't move, he didn't place his hands around her, he merely looked up at her with wide eyes and feelings of erotic anticipation. You can stand. Her sultry voice soothed his brain. Slowly he did so, towering over her, his shoulders flexed, as did his biceps. His chest was massive as he breathed deep breaths. Follow me. Marcy spoke softly but sternly, walking ahead of him, clutching his makeshift leash. Taylor hadn't felt this comfortable in a long time. He hadn't felt this kind of excitement. What would she do next? Or more importantly, what would she make him do next? As Marcy navigates the storm of her loveless marriage, the plot thickens. Watch until the end for a shocking revelation, leaving you hungry for more secrets in the next chapter. Stay tuned for the continuation of Marcy's tumultuous journey.